a comedy game design podcast by two guys who know nothing about comedy but a little bit about game design. I'm Trevor Scott, and with me as always is Ben Slinger.
Hello, hello. Yeah, we do know a little bit these days, I suppose.
We had a lot of fun with the limitation of the jam last week. Mm-hmm. So we've been racking our brains as what other type of jam we should actually do. We were talking about a couple of episodes ago about, there's another one coming up called The Eye, which is an eldritch horror sort of jam. And we thought, let's go back to the one that they did in December, which was the Eye Jam 1. Yep. And that had a theme of descent.
Yeah.
But the limitation being that it had to include some sort of eldritch being, unknowable, H.P. Lovecraft sort of.
Yeah, that's
fun stuff.
That's a fun thing.
I really like it. For those who don't know, I used to be part of a band called Eldritch Rights, which was a doom metal band. And we used
those sorts of things
throughout a lot of stuff. So it's always sort of there as one of my favorite sort of topics to think about.
Yeah, look, I think just that idea of the unknowable, or even not necessarily actually unknowable, but like difficult to decipher, and being the person who like learns more about this huge thing that sort of is in our world.
So the different ways that we could use descent in this is obviously a descent into madness. That's obviously something that happens a lot in these sort of.
Well, I think let's click pitch it, obviously, and we'll see how descent will play into it and how the eldritchness will play into it, and see where we go.
Ooh.
So 3, 2, 1, click.
3, 2, 1, click. Cellar.
Tidy.
I mean,
descending into the cellar, you've already got a descent there.
You've already got a descent there. The main reason why you're descending into the cellar is because you're tidying up. Yeah. So this is one of those things where, grandparent has passed away. You're descending into their cellar, the last room of the house that needs to be tidied.
Yep.
And you're getting ready to sell the place.
Okay.
I like the idea of you don't see anything out of the ordinary. You pull some books off of a bookshelf that's down there. Yeah. And the bookshelf slides to the side. And there's a doorway behind.
The classic bookshelf sliding book sliding mechanism. Okay, and so old Grammy had been communing with the occult.
There is an unknowable thing behind this that you've never heard any tales of,
So
your grandparent used to spend a lot of hours down here in the cellar.
Mm.
But you thought it was just reading books and all this sort of stuff and tinkering at the workshop. And
so one of the things, as you said, is sort of descending into madness, and like the unknowableness of it is often that like these things are too much for the human brain to actually comprehend.
Yeah.
So I don't think that you should immediately recognize, oh, this is an unknowable thing, obviously, right? Yeah. I think maybe you're taking the stuff down to the cellar, you find this door, you open the door, suddenly you don't remember anything and you're back upstairs or in a different part of the house.
You've stepped through it and you're in the attic.
But it doesn't, but I think...
But you've just woken up in the attic.
Yeah, that's it. Like I think there's clearly time has passed.
Time has passed. It was day when you walked in.
Yeah.
It is now dark outside.
Yeah. I feel like this could be a bit of like a walking sim kind of thing. Often with walking sims always taking from the great design of Firewatch, I like the idea of having sort of an external character or check-in. So I think maybe
you can look at your phone and there's 17 missed calls.
Yeah. And I think maybe you were on the phone with someone when you went in. And so you're like, what the fuck? And you can call them and say like, what happened? And
you're asking them what happened. It's like, I don't know, what happened? You were talking to me, you went quiet, the phone stopped, and then I haven't been able to contact you for the last 17 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or however many hours.
8 hours or 10 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
And so now you're kind of like the idea of having to, that you know where this thing is, but you can't go there and just look at it. You can't just investigate by looking at this thing, because every time you go down there, if you try,
you lose
time.
more time.
Yeah.
So it was 8 hours the first time.
Yeah.
And it's more time the next time.
Yeah. You find yourself back in the kitchen. It's the same time of day as when you went down there. You're like, oh, okay, thank goodness. But then you look at your phone and it's like the next day. It's like, fuck. You've got all these missed calls again or whatever. Well, yeah, and then, okay, so I like the idea then that the person on the other end of the phone, whoever it is, your spouse, brother or something, they're telling you to just leave this place. And you're just like, no, I can't. I need to figure out what's going on here. This becomes this obsession then.
Yeah.
And every time you think you figured out how to approach this thing, more time passes in the jump. And so by like a few of these jumps, it's like
it's jumping
weeks
like
now. Weeks, months, a year, yeah. And I really
and the person that you were originally calling.
Oh, like they've abandoned you by this point, or like they're
like
depending on what that relationship is. I do like the idea that it's a spouse or something, and then
they've moved on.
They've moved on by this point. It's been years, basically. That's actually a really interesting device, because you as the player then, you're just exploring. You're just trying to solve these puzzles, trying to figure this out. And I think we have to put in, like, there are key points where it's like you've solved a certain thing. You have to go back to the whatever it is, to the seller, to sort of give over whatever this thing is. And then after the jump, you've got like some extra clues for the next thing.
Do you like the idea of you go through the jump and you end up in an earlier time?
Ooh. Maybe late game.
Because I'm thinking you manage to fix something and see more. You get flashes, all this sort of stuff. When you come back out, you're actually at an earlier time.
Depends. How much do we want to be inspired by Adam Sandler's Click? No, I don't mind that as a resolution, that you kind of do get to redeem yourself if you figure this out and undo all the pain you've caused to others by.
I just love the idea of something that you say during this part of the loop. They've already referenced in the next conversation that you have,
like
with them,
the one
which
that
is
you
the next time conversation,
right?
But it's something that happens during this loop that is like you realize that, oh shit, like my spouse has already gone through this once before.
Oh, that you see that you have that early on,
that because you've gone back in time or whatever. They're referencing something in a later conversation that happened during this conversation now.
I'm just trying to think. So, is it that you've previously?
So there's time.
Right, so you've
time
So let's say, for example, it's been a year. You're at the point where it's a year later. You have a conversation with spouse. Blah blah blah. You go back down, and now you're like 3 weeks before that, and you realise that.
Something that they said
something
in that
that they just said in that
conversation
last loop essentially is happening now.
Yeah,
okay.
And it didn't make that much sense back when you were talking about it. But it's like, oh shit. Like, no matter what, like you need to go through all these different time periods.
Yeah. Sort of creating then the inevitability.
That you eventually are going to experience all these. But where are you going to actually end up?
Then you've got a bit of a Doctor Who sort of situation in a sense too, because they like, or a time traveler's wife kind of thing. Because what if they start referencing a version of you that you haven't gotten to yet? Now that you can sometimes jump backwards, they start referencing like, what the fuck was that? Like you had you were completely.
You said that you weren't going to go back into that you were never going to go back into this thing. You promised me, 6 months ago. And I was like, we haven't had this conversation.
Yeah.
You swore on such and such as life, this was never going to happen because you'd learnt the error of your ways. you knew about this, and it's like something that gives you a clue.
Well, or I was also just thinking like that they reference a time when you called and you were just completely insane.
Yeah,
like you were speaking in tongues. You were talking about the bloodless ones who come in the moonlight, or what, like some shit that you've not experienced as the player of this game yet. But then it's sort of giving this sense that, and this obviously has to happen after you know that sometimes these jumps might go backwards, and you're just like, oh shit, like how far is this going to go? Like that's a possible future, or that's a future an inevitable future of my character. Is this changeable?
I do kind of like the idea of you go through and it jumps 30 years in the future, and literally there's other people living in the house now that all of a sudden have this strange man in their living room, and they get you committed.
Well,
and so it sort of ends with, but there's so many conversations that I haven't experienced yet. I need to get back there, and they break out, and that's where it sort of finishes. So it's like they're never going to escape this. They've sort of entered into this.
So okay, I do like that, and I like some of the stuff with the jump backwards and stuff. But what I feel like actually is we've diverged from
the eldritch.
Well, no, I think the eldritch is fine. But when I was originally picturing it, I was thinking that you weren't actually like teleporting through time. You were just losing chunks of your memory that you were like you physically were there during that time, which in some ways is a creepier kind of thing. Because I was then picturing like as more and more time goes by, almost a bit of like a weapons thing, right? You get a call. It's like I came to that house, like you wouldn't let me, but I saw you just sitting in there, staring at the wall. Like, what the fuck is going on? And you're just like, what? What do you mean? I don't know. We just talked.
So you don't need to be going. Although, if you are going back, it means that you're experiencing earlier times that you.
It could be, it could be. You could do it like that. That it's sort of your consciousness then is perhaps shifting in time.
Yeah, it feels very much like butterfly effect.
Yeah, a little bit of that too. Yeah.
That I remember when that came out. I went to the movies and saw it by myself. And then I got home and I'm like, I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I went to my then girlfriend, now wife, and said, you need to come see this movie with me. So we went and saw it again.
What was that, like 2000, 2001? Earlier?
2001.
I think it was early 2000s.
Early 2000s. Loved it so much. We really enjoyed it. Later on that night, Mum and Dad were talking about, looking for a good movie. It's like, well, actually.
Did you go see it with them again?
Third time that day.
3 times in one day.
I was that enamored with that whole idea.
It was at the time. Like I suspect it doesn't hold up super well.
It really doesn't.
Yeah. Have you watched it recently?
My main problem is when it came out on DVD, especially in Australia, it came out with a director's cut version, which I do not like the ending of the director's cut version at all.
Is the director's cut the one where he strangles himself in the
womb?
In the womb,
yes.
Yeah, okay.
I do not like that ending. I prefer the ending where he basically
makes it so they never meet.
No,
so they can be happy,
isn't it? He, says some really horrible stuff to her at a birthday party, and she leaves with her mum instead of staying with her dad.
So that they're never friends.
So that they're never friends.
And then they see each other on the street. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I prefer that ending because it's like...
I think so. You look, at the time, I was probably trying to be, feeling edgy and thinking that the strangle yourself in the womb one is better. But no, I think the more wholesome ending is... Because it's still dark. That's still, But it's actually a more interesting sacrifice then. Otherwise, you're just sort of creating weird imagery.
I get what they were trying to do with the other ending, though, with him dying in the womb. The whole story about the mum had multiple miscarriages. It's literally, this has happened so many fucking times that every single time they had killed themselves in the womb.
That is
And so from a me now thinking about it and going, yes, that does
But
make
you can
sense.
still have that interpretation, but he's the one who figured out a way to not have to do that. You could still have him consider it, you know.
Anyway, next one.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, quick.
Funeral.
Window.
Okay. Now,
There is something about a funeral parlor, and then, like, when you're sitting in a funeral and you don't want to look at the coffin, so you just stare out at whatever else you can. You're staring at this window.
and a giant eye comes into view.
Well, I'm just thinking there's just something, whether you lose time, whether you see something that your brain just can't comprehend.
Yeah. Well, look, so where I went, and I know that this is not as traditionally eldritch, it's more just traditional horror, but my mind went to the idea of you're at someone's funeral and then you look out the window and that person is standing there.
Yeah.
In some form or another. Now, you could still head that in an eldritch direction as you start to discover what the fuck is going on here. It could be
you start investigating that person, and you find out that
eldritch
they were
reflections
into
of
some dark shit. And as you start knowing it more, you start seeing their visage more and more and more.
Oh, just thinking of it as a deductive game.
Yeah.
And what sorts of things you could do with documents and shifting documents, discovering things that you all of a sudden can read and then can't read, or
there's something about
that you can't trust the words on the page.
While you're reading it, it's like it's reading fine, and then it just goes into just random fucking words that just don't make any sense. And once you've experienced a bit more, you come back and just like you can't read any of the start, but the second part is now come into.
You get some cool effects
focus.
if you're like scrolling through a document and like in the frame or two before it scrolls out of view, you like shift the letters.
There is something about that I do like. The more that I play with Godot, the more that I realize how powerful the UI is. And
stuff. Like
you can actually do. Like, you could do so much of that. Like, I've been playing around with a few shaders and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And there's definitely things in that you can tell when something's not on the screen anymore and all this sort of stuff.
That's it. Like, well, and the good thing about Godot is you can actually, I mean, A, because it's open source, but also because they expose all of the stuff. Like, you can go deeper into the rendering stuff and write, you don't have to just use their UI components. You can write a UI component and actually alter the way it draws to the screen.
Yes.
So, you could definitely do some really cool stuff there.
I do really like the idea of a descent into madness from a point of view of you're reading these documents, the more that you're trying to deduce what actually happened to your friend, the more helpless, and the more you're basically signing your death warrant.
Yeah. Well, and I think it'd be really interesting because, a big part of part of realizing that you're descending into madness is then seeing yourself through someone else's perspective in certain ways. And I think in a game like this, it could be interesting to someone comes to check on you and, in the dialogue or whatever, you're like, no, but I found this stuff, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, what stuff? And you bring them in.
There's nothing on your wall.
That's it. Like, this is like you've smeared shit all over the wall, or whatever it is. Maybe not to that degree at that point, but
the idea
or it's just like random.
All these pages are blank. What are you talking about?
It's just like random pages from magazines or something. Like they're all just. It's all you've cut out all these pictures of eyes and just stuck them on the wall or something. But to you, when they leave, you look back and it's like all the documents you've been collecting and all the evidence you've got. Having those sorts of shifts where it's like, oh no, other people aren't seeing this. Is this actually real and it's just something I can see? Or is my character just going completely insane? it doesn't really matter from a gameplay point of view. Like, obviously, you just continue playing the game, but having these sort of interesting overlays then.
There is something really cool there. I do like the idea of, being at a funeral, something happens.
Yeah, that's where it starts,
3, 2, 1, click.
Yeah.
Let's go again.
Invasion.
Reporter.
Oh, okay, that's fun. I mean, you can go the classic kind of eldritch creature, monster movie-esque sort of thing. A Cthulhu-like attack of some sort.
There's something about, like, playing a reporter who's investigating something that's happening, some sort of attack that's been happening, blah, 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 some sort of invasion. They don't even notice, like, the huge unknowable being sort of looking down on like, it looks like it's just been a black sky the whole time, but then,
But then the eye opens.
The eye opens and it's like, these were just, the invasion was literally not that. It was this.
Yeah. There must be a fun little just like short vignette sort of thing. Maybe playing the cameraman.
Yeah.
Like that could be cool. And you've sort of got this reporter there and they're reporting on.
Could do something really fun with the shaders in that and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I've been playing around, obviously, with the House on the Hill with all the different shaders and that sort of stuff. The VR shaders are a lot harder because I can't fucking get transparency to work because fuck.
Let's not worry about that right now. But yeah, no, I think that could be just a fun little, like, almost a vignette where you're playing the camera person, you're having to sort of keep it on them as this reporter goes through.
I love the little
stuff's
time
happening in the
code down
background.
the time code in the corner.
Oh, yeah, that's
going
it.
up
You've got that going. But, like, focusing on things that happen. So, like, someone starts getting attacked by one of the little creatures that are there in the background. And, if you keep it on the reporter, they're like, no, like, get that, move it over there, capture that. You have a few of those sorts of things. And then, the end of it is just, like, you pan up and the just slow opening of this eye that's, like, more than, like, continent-sized, basically. If you can make that look good with, the atmospheric, making it feel like it's really up there but really huge and the speed of it and stuff.
And it's like, since this invasion happened, we haven't seen the sun.
Yeah.
All this sort of stuff. And they're going on about how, this invasion has caused a permanent darkness. And
Yep.
And what they don't realize is that's not the night sky.
Yeah.
It is infinite black.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like, it is so large that it is literally.
Well, that's it. When you see, it's like there's a crack in this. Like there's a line just across the whole sky as it at the moment that it starts to open, and everyone's like, what's going on? And then just like it just, and you just see this huge eyeball and like focuses. The iris shifts. Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's cool.
Black.
And then cuts to black. Yeah, definitely.
There is something about something being so huge that people are actually talking about, like, in that patch of sky, like, the stars are going out from the center and it's like, it's going out, it's going out, it's going out, it's going out to the point that it's like, obviously, all the stars are going out and they say the sun is now out. Like, literally, we can't see any stars. We can't see, all we can see in the sky is the moon.
Right. Oh, right. Okay.
And it is that big that is basically, it's, sort of enveloped everything so it's in between the moon and the sun.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
And it's enveloped.
Yep. Yeah. That's it. Because it doesn't have to make physical sense.
But just the idea that it was coming from far away all this time, and people are there's just little news reports happening of, the stars are going
in a certain area going out, a certain part of the sky, and then more and more and more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And then realizing, oh no,
They're not
going out. It's just blocking and getting closer.
But it's so dark that they don't notice. Because
No, it's just an absence of light.
Of everything.
Of everything, yeah.
That to me is so cool. It's like then you go back and you're listening and you're seeing, little newspaper cutouts and all this sort of stuff and little articles. And it's like, if you pay attention to all those, you know the real story that's actually going on.
Yeah. Well, one interesting thing you could do as the build up to it is maybe the whole game isn't through the cameraman, but you could have it as this really interesting little
vignettes.
Yeah, but that switch into each other. Like I'm picturing, you're in your apartment, you can look at the newspaper, you see some of that stuff about it, blah, blah, blah. You turn the TV on, it's this news reporter and the camera into the TV. Now you're controlling the cameraman sort of thing. It's like now you're part of that one. And that's probably the last one. But you could have a few going back where you've managed to segue them into each other like that.
Well, you get to a certain point and they take a photo, you're playing a photographer and you take a photo and then that becomes the photo on the newspaper.
On the newspaper, yeah.
Goes out.
Exactly.
So you just work it backwards that way to a radio report. And as you're saying something,
yeah, you're the you're the reporter there, or you're on the desk
sort
or
of
something.
These are the things, these are the things, these are the things. As you go to say that last thing, you zoom out from a radio, and it's this vignette of someone's now listening to
the photographer then or whatever. Yeah. I actually like that. Even if this isn't the story, as an interesting little storytelling thing of switching perspectives in a game, having that shift. That's cool.
It's very different from anything that we've looked at doing before, and it could be stupid. It could feel very stupid, but if it's done in a serious way, I don't know. How would a comedy work with Eldritch?
I mean, Mars Attacks sort of vibe. I feel like if you're doing this sort of thing, but in a more comedic sense, that's immediately where my mind went.
Yeah,
it's like Mars Attacks,
but. I mean, you could very much do that.
This is the end.
Yeah,
that sort of
people being sucked into the sky and all this sort of stuff.
The humor around it, and then a giant demon with a huge cock.
Yeah, but thinking that they're actually being, this is the rapture and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah,
but it's actually this thing in the sky.
Yeah. Oh well, that's it. Yeah, you could have some really interesting. In fact, that could be one of the radio report could be of a sermon or something, a preacher, evangelical kind of thing claiming it's the rapture or whatever. You could have those sorts of vibes through it as well. That's cool. I actually, that'd be a great little storytelling game.
Remind me we'll talk about some stuff after we shut off, which is now we'll finish this episode.
Yeah, I think let's call it there. So, if you would like to find all of our episodes online, go to bitstormcast.com. You can check them all out there. Give them a listen.
Yep.
If you're enjoying the show, maybe shoot us a review somewhere. We'll see it wherever, iTunes or Spotify or Podchaser or wherever you want to do it.
Yeah,
there's a lot of places.
We're on Blue Sky.
Just email us. Find us on Blue Sky. And also check
go to our Games on Itch and put a comment on something.
Yeah, well, and that's a good segue into bitstorm.games is our other site with our gaming stuff, including the upcoming Grant Grover anthology when we eventually finish it.
When we aren't working on other stuff.
Other things.
We do plan to get back to finishing that.
Oh, yeah,
and it'll be out this year.
Yeah.
If you like the song that we play at the start and end of each episode, that song is Mount Defiance off the album Containment Failure by the band Kuradust. I kind of feel like I really should have put an Eldritch Wright song on for this one.
Maybe.
But you know what? I didn't. I didn't because I'm saying that I didn't.
This is like Bill and Ted level time travel here.
Yeah, I've had the thought. I'm like, that's too much work for me to actually.
Yeah, you did do it. It was too much work. You travelled back in time to right now.
To right
we cut
now.
It out, but Trevor actually appeared next to us, said, "It's too much work. Don't bother putting the Eldritch Wright track on there," and then fucked off.
The thing is, I don't remember doing that.
Well, no, because you haven't done it yet.
I blacked out.
No, you haven't done it yet. You just have to make sure that you do that later.
But you were just telling me that I was here, telling you. Sorry, I blacked out for a second.
Thank you again for joining us this week on Bitstorm. I'm Ben Slinger.
I'm Trevor Scott.
And I'm in the sky. I've been here the whole time.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit, it's Sam Rice.
It's Eldritch Sam Reich. Right.